Hi everyone, I'm Walnut and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking on Series 2 with a Screamtail team. Series 1 just ended and now all the Paradox Pokemon are available. I wanted to use Screamtail because it's just so cute. I love its little fangs. We'll start off by briefly going over the team, so if you want to skip straight to the battles, timestamps are available in the description below. So I wanted to build a team with my favorite Pokemon, but with nearly 400 Pokemon available in the format, it was hard to build a team with Pokemon that I liked that also worked well together. So I went to tiermaker.com to sort out my thoughts. Pokemon here are tiered on based on how much I value them, and I value them based on coolness, cuteness, and power. So we have some powerful Pokemon in lower tiers like Bald Godzilla over here, and we have some cooler Pokemon in higher tiers like Weavile. This is all just personal preference, don't take it too seriously. If you want to make your own tier list, I'll leave a link to this tier maker in the description below. First on the team, we have Screamtail. Screamtail is just the star of the show here. Screamtail is our main form of speed control. It's able to just eat hits and spread Thunder Wave, paralyze the entire enemy team as long as they're not like ground types or magic bound Hatterene. Disable and Encore are also great as it'll cause the opponent to struggle to attack you, haha. But I got that idea from watching 1v1 battles and I thought it'd be interesting to bring into VGC as well. Disable Encore and Thunder Wave are just super disruptive and make it really hard for the opponent to get attacks in. Dazzling Gleam is just a fourth move that does damage, and I think you could also run other moves like Psychic Fangs in this slot, but I just like Dazzling Gleam. It's a spread move, so I'm able to hit mons like Flutter Mane and their partner, Break Sash, do a little bit of chip. For the EV spread, I went with a pretty bulky spread, max HP and a lot of investment in defenses leading towards special defense because I want to take hits from Flutter Mane a little bit better, and I have a little bit of speed investment so I can outspeed a paralyzed, booster energy Iron Moth. So if an Iron Moth tries to go for an Acid Spray combo on the first turn, I can Terra Steel, Thunder Wave it, and then outspeed it the following turn, maybe Encore it, who knows. For the Terra type, Steel is great for fairies as it removes the Steel weakness and turns it into a resistance and turns that poison weakness into an immunity, while also giving you a lot of resistances as well. The problem with Steel Terra is since I have so much HP, I kind of just become a health pack versus fighting types, so you do have to watch out for that. I like Leftovers as an item as you're able to sit on the field for a long time and disrupt the opponent with Disable, Encore, and Thunder Wave, and you're not taking too much damage since you're so bulky, and you'll be able to get a lot of healing out of that. Next up on the team we have Dragapult. This Dragapult set I got from a Neo VGC video. I'm going to leave a link to his channel in the description below. At the time I was testing out Will-O-Wisp Ceruledge. I just kind of like the idea of a ghost type with Will-O-Wisp to kind of cripple Iron Hands, since I think that is going to be a pretty strong Pokemon in this format. But I really like the fast Will-O-Wisp with Dragapult. I can burn faster physical attackers, like for example Garchomp. Light Screen helps me versus special attackers. U-Turn lets you pivot out. For example, I could lead it next to the Screamtail, and if I was worried about maybe taking a big hit really quickly, the Focus Sash will let me survive that, and I can U-turn into Ceruledge after their attacker is paralyzed. The Sash is also good at just catching opponents by surprise because they might expect like a Choice Band or something else instead. I like the ability Clear Body here as it ignores Intimidate drops and Icy Wind speed drops, and for the Terra type I went with Dragons for a little extra damage with the Dragon Darts. EV spread isn't anything really special, I just went with max speed as Dragapult's super fast and is able to outspeed Paradox Pokemon as long as they aren't booster energy speed. Next on the team we have Iron Valiant and our second Paradox Pokemon. I really like Iron Valiant as it's really fast and looks super cool. I went with a special set here as I'm kind of lacking special damage on this team, and for attacks I went with Moonblast, Aura Sphere, and Hex. I went with Aura Sphere over a move like Focus Blast because I just don't like missing. The problem with Hex is I've never honestly clicked that move. Moonblast usually just does more damage in most situations, but I think other moves that I could run in the fourth slot could be like Destiny Bond, Psychic, or Psyshock. Maybe Hex would be a little bit better if I went with Terra Ghost, but I went with Fairy Terra in this case because I wanted to boost Moonblast damage, and also Fairy Terra matches really well with Shiny Iron Valiant. You'll be able to see that in game. I really like the booster energy with the speed boost here, as if I'm not able to get a Thunder Wave off on something, I do want some fast options as well. Fourth on the team we have Scarlet, and this Scarlet set isn't anything too crazy, just protect Bitterblade, Shadow Sneak, and Terra Blast with Terra Grass. The Grass Terra typing is nice defensively as it lets you resist water type and ground type moves, and offensively it's also good to attack those water, ground types, and rock types. The Flash Fire ability synergizes well with the Grass Terra type as you are not weak to fire moves, and it also synergizes well with the Will-O-Wisp teammates as you can self Will-O-Wisp to give yourself a boost to your fire type moves. For the item, I went with the Clear Amulet as you're able to ignore Intimidate drops. And for the EVs, I went with Max Attack, Max Speed Jolly as I really want to outspeed Goldango, especially since my Screamtail is not able to get a Thunder Wave off on it, so I can't control its speed that way. So I just wanted to make sure I outspeed it naturally. Next up we have Rotom. I went with the physically bulky set because I don't really have too much Fizz bulk on this team, and I have a Citrus Berry on it to give it even more staying power. I have Will-O-Wisp here as another option if I don't want to bring Dragapult, and yep, it's Terra Ghost. Another Ghost type Will-O-Wisper. I am a little bit scared of that Iron Hands, but also Terra Ghost is just what I caught the Rotom with, and I haven't decided on what I want to change it to yet. I was thinking maybe Terra Fire as I am weak to grass types, and I also don't want to take Freeze Dry from Iron Bundle. Levitate gives me a ground immunity on this team, and the water and electric typing is good at resisting the steel types moves that will be going into my Screamtail and Iron Valiant. The three moves are Volt Switch, Hydro Pump, and Thunderbolt. Volt Switch is on this team kinda to give me a slow pivot option since Rotom Wash is not built to be speedy, and then I have Thunderbolt and Hydro Pump as coverage moves. For the EV spread, I went with Max HP, Defense, and Special Attack, just so I can eat hits pretty well. I haven't done too many calcs with this Pokemon yet, but I do want to make sure that I am able to KO Iron Bundle. I think this is probably enough since Iron Bundle is not very defensive on the special side. So yeah, that is Rotom Wash. Last on the team is Scizor. I've always wanted to use Scizor since I played like Leaf Green, and I found out that Scyther was a version exclusive and that this thing is also a trade evolution. And yeah, I never really got to use Scizor until recently. I really like Technician Bullet Punch as it does a lot of damage, threatens the Flutter Mane. Assault Vest is good at being very tanky, especially since Bug and Steel is only weak to fire types, and with this Water Terra you're able to be resisting those fire moves as well if you so choose. I went with Close Combat, Terra Blast, and U-Turn as the other three moves. Close Combat is good versus Dark types, other Steel types. Terra Blast gives me a more reliable water option if I don't want to risk missing Hydro Pump, and U-Turn is another slow pivot option since Scizor is not very fast. For the EV spread, I went with an Adamant Nature, Max Attack, and a lot of HP investment with a couple points in Defense, Special Defense, and Speed. That is it for the team breakdown though. Let's go ahead and move on into the battles. Really quickly, I just wanted to show off the rank I got in Season 2. I was able to reach 1779, which I'm pretty happy with. So we're actually going to be skipping over the first 4 battles here. I should have been issued a DUI with how I was piloting this team for some of those losses. One of the losses, I didn't realize that a Dragonite had a mental herb, so I was like, why did my Encore end after 1 turn? Like, did they run out of extreme speeds? But yeah, I was just not paying too much attention. One of the losses, I miscounted Trick Room turns. That's oopsies on me. And one of them, it was just Annihilate. I didn't really play too carefully. But yeah, we're going to be skipping over those and jumping right into this one. Our opponent has Cerulege and Iron Valiant, as well as Meowscarada, so very good taste from them. Also Indeedee Female, Murkrow, and Tatsugiri. So versus this lead, since it's a potential Tailwind, I do like Dragapult and Screamtail in the lead. I could maybe get a Thunder Wave off. If it's Meowscarada, I can just go for Dazzling Gleam U-Turn. And I can also survive any Tailwind hit that they go for because of the Focus Sash. I also like bringing Cerulege in this position, as I'll be able to be immune to their fire moves from their Cerulege. I can threaten their Meowscarada, and I think it's just in general a pretty decent mon. I also want to bring my own Iron Valiant versus this team, as it's able to hit their Iron Valiant, their Meowscarada, and their Tatsugiri and Murkrow super effectively. I was considering Rotom Wash in this position as well, but I didn't think it was too useful because the Will-O-Wisp isn't that great. Like, I could resist some moves, but like if it's Terra Grass Ceruledge, I wouldn't be able to attack it that well. Yeah, I'm just completely walled by Terra Grass Ceruledge, let's be honest. If it does Terra Grass at least. But yeah, we got that new trainer card with the shiny Greninja that we hatched. Very nice, very nice. And our opponent is leading Meowscarada and Murkrow. So the U-turn and Dazzling Gleam play is looking pretty good here. Very nice and safe. I'm expecting a Tailwind from the Murkrow, and then probably a knockoff from the Meowscarada. The knockoff could go into either Mon, theoretically, but I think it's probably going to go into Dragapult, especially since it is a Tailwind setup. You probably want to go for a quick KO on the fast Mon first. That's, you know, threatening the damage. I guess Screamtail technically threatens Trick Room, so they could go for a taunt there, but I'm not too worried about that, especially since I am going for this Dazzling Gleam instead. Yeah, we survive with the Focus Sash, you turn into Meowscarada, bring it down decently low. And I'm going to be switching in the Ceruledge here. I didn't want to bring in the Iron Valiant just yet because I didn't want to use the booster energy. But yeah, we're gonna go for the Dazzling Gleam and knock out the Murkrow. Not the Murkrow, the Meowscarada. Oops. Yeah, but at this point the Murkrow is a little bit threatening, as Foul Play should be able to one-shot my Ceruledge. So my plan here is I'm going to protect with Ceruledge and disable the Murkrow's Foul Play. It seems like a pretty safe play. I could also go for Thunder Wave on Ceruledge, but I don't think that they're too threatening from this position. Like, the only thing their Ceruledge can do to my Ceruledge is like Shadow Sneak. Like, Terra Blast and Bitter Blade do absolutely nothing. Murkrow is just the threat on the field right now. So yeah, let's try to disable its attack, and I'll just protect with Ceruledge for this turn. Screamtail's not really in danger of Ceruledge. Maybe if it gets like a crit Shadow Claw, that'd be scary, but I feel like Shadow Claw is a little bit rare of a move to find on Ceruledge. But our opponent's actually going to go for a Terra here. I'm not sure if they were afraid of like a Shadow Sneak or something like that. I didn't really see too much of a reason to go for it at this position because I wasn't threatening the Ceruledge too much. But yeah, they go for the Terra Grass, we go for the Protect. But our opponent goes for a Sucker Punch on their Murkrow, which I thought was a little bit unusual as their Dark move option. They go for a Shadow Sneak onto my Screamtail, and they do a decent amount of damage. But yeah, we are able to disable the Sucker Punch, so I don't have to worry about that for next turn. Yeah, I don't know. They just went for a Sucker Punch there. I'm not sure if that would have KO'd Ceruledge. But at this point, I was considering a Terra Grass, because they could still have Foul Play, because I only disabled the Sucker Punch. But since Sucker Punch scales off attack, I was actually calling that the Murkrow would have Brave Bird instead. So I didn't want to Terra Grass here in case I would be weak to Brave Bird. And I was willing to risk that they would also carry Foul Play on their Murkrow set, as I'd be able to clean up anyways, as I have the Iron Valiant in the back to threaten the Murkrow. So yeah, I'll just go for a Bitter Blade on Murkrow here, and a Thunder Wave on their Ceruledge. But yeah, no, they do have Foul Play as well. So looks like their moves are Tailwind, Sucker Punch, Foul Play, and probably some other status move. So I will most likely not have to worry about Brave Bird for the Iron Valiant, so that is nice to know. Their Ceruledge actually goes for a Clear Smog on my Screamtail, which I find extremely unusual. So we're able to get a Thunder Wave off on it. Because the... what's it called? Shadow Sneak was already doing plenty of damage and is super effective, so I'm not sure why they went for the Clear Smog. I'm not sure if they were... yeah, I really can't tell. Maybe they were expecting some sort of switch. I don't think Clear Smog clears the Quark Drive boost anyways. But yeah, we're able to get Iron Valiant in on the Ceruledge slot. And I'll just be going for a Encore on the Scarlet. I don't really care what move it's going to use, but I do want to restrict it as much as possible. If it does go for like a Bitter Blade or Shadow Sneak this turn, I can Encore it and then disable it next time, and it'll be a lot easier to handle. I'm just going to be going for the Moonblast here. Since Murkrow had that foul play, I'm not too worried about it hitting my Iron Valiant with that. It's quad resisted, and I do have a 0 attack IV on this Iron Valiant. They actually go for a foul play onto Screamtail, who also has a 0 attack IV, so that does almost nothing. Moonblast is able to take out the Murkrow here. And the Scarlet is still faster than my Screamtail since they have the Tailwind up, even though they're paralyzed. But they go for another Clear Smog, so yeah, I'm really not sure what to say. They go for the Encore onto their Scarlet, lock them into Clear Smog. I am very safe from this position now, as Clear Smog's can do very little damage. Maybe Clear Smog would do something to my Iron Valiant, since it has very low special defense and it is a Fairy type. But I'm really not too scared from this position. They send in their own Iron Valiant here, and they happen to also have a Booster Energy on it, and it's Booster Energy Speed, which really sucks, because that means we're actually speed tied here. So I am at a little bit of a risk, so I will just go for a Thunder Wave on their Iron Valiant this turn, and probably just protect on mine. As it seems very safe, I don't have to risk a speed tide quite yet, and if I get the Thunder Wave off, it'll be very useful. I can just, if the Scarlet just attacks, that's fine as well. It's not threatening much damage with that Clear Smog. Yeah, even though I have the Terra option, if they are a special Iron Valiant and they go for a Moonblast and like win that speed tie and their Moonblast crits, it could still knock me out through my Terra, I believe, as my special defense is pretty low. That's why I went with this play first. Unfortunately, they do protect, so I'm not able to get the Thunder Wave off this turn, so I do actually have to risk the speed tie crit anyways, but that's okay. I think it's fine as long as I play in a way that maximizes my odds. So I'm just going to be going for a a Dazzling Gleam from this position, because if they do get that crit, I want to be able to do as much damage into the Iron Valiant as possible, because the Dragapult isn't going to be able to hit the Iron Valiant for like any meaningful damage. But yeah, we are going for the Terra Fairy Moonblast on our Iron Valiant into theirs. It is a bit of overkill, but the Terra is mostly for the defensive option, as I don't want to take super effective moves, or super effective damage from their Fairy move. And look at this beautiful Fairy Terra hat on the Iron Valiant. It just matches so perfectly. Absolutely gorgeous. And they do outspeed me, but they're actually physical, so their Spirit Break wouldn't have knocked me out even if it KO'd. They do drop my special attack here, which kinda sucks. But the Moonblast should still be able to knock out their Iron Valiant. Bye bye Iron Valiant, get diffed on. It's a Terra diff. And our Dazzling Gleam is now single target and just hits the Scarlet. Clear Smog is still doing very negligible damage. It's basically leftovers. He's just negating my leftovers. Yeah, at this point we basically won the game. It's still paralyzed and encored for one more turn. It can't KO anything on my team, so I'll just be going for a Dazzling Gleam Moonblast into their Scarlet. We don't pick up the KO with the Moonblast here though, because of that special attack drop, but that's fine. Because the Dazzling Gleam will be enough to pick up the Scarlet, and that is going to be game number 1. Alright, and GG to our opponent. That was pretty fun. Got to showcase the Thunder Wave and the Disruption with the Screamtail, and show off that cool Fairy Terra hat. This next battle is against some pretty scary Paradox Pokemon. They have Iron Bundle and Iron Hands, as well as Garganacl, Amoonguss, Arcanine, and Goldango, so Homie picked some of the best mons in the format, but I'm ready to bring Screamtail and Dragapult here, as Screamtail is going to be good for speed control, and Dragapult is good versus Iron Hands and the potential Intimidate lead. I can also Light Screen if they lead like Goldengo or Iron Bundle. I also like Ceruledge on this team as it has a good matchup versus Amoonguss, and they also have that Goldengo, which I'm a little bit worried about. And I was also going to bring Rotom Wash here, as Rotom Wash can use electric moves versus the Iron Bundle if I'm able to do that. I can also go for special moves versus the Garganacl, because typically their special defense is a little bit lower than defense. And I can also go for water moves versus their Arcanine. And you can see me considering the Iron Valiant bring here as well, just because I think the Moonblast would be nice versus Iron Hands for like the damage option, but I don't really have to worry about the Iron Hands too much because of the burn opportunities here with the Rotom and the Dragapult. Additionally, Iron Hands will sometimes carry Assault Vest, which means their special defense is actually going to be higher than their defense, so pretty hard to take down, even with the Iron Valiant Moonblast. Especially if they go for like a Terra or something on their Iron Hands and lose that fighting typing. But yeah, they are going to lead the Amoonguss and Iron Hands here. From their side, I could see a couple plays coming out. I could see a Rage Powder and potentially a Sword Stance or an attack from the Iron Hands. I could also see a Fake Out and a Spore from their side. So my play here to cover for both of those is to disable the Amoonguss and then Will-O-Wisp the Iron Hands. This way, if they fake out my Screamtail, I'm still able to Will-O-Wisp the Iron Hands, and if they go for the Rage Powder, I'm able to disable the Rage Powder and go for the Will-O-Wisp next turn. I find it very unlikely that they would go for a Rage Powder and a Fake Out because it's just too passive of a turn for them. So yeah, here's the Fake Out into the Screamtail. Looks like it's going to be the Fake Out Spore option. We do get that Will-O-Wisp into the Iron Hands though. And let's just see who the Amoonguss is going to Spore here. Yeah, we flinched this turn, that's fine. And Spore is going to go out into the Screamtail. I would have preferred the Spore go out into the Dragapult, as I could disable the Spore next turn and I wouldn't have to worry about that, but it's okay. I'm okay with leaving Screamtail on the field here to just take a nap. You can wake up whenever it feels like it. The Iron Hands isn't threatening the Screamtail with a lot of damage here. The Amoonguss can't really do anything to me either. So I'm just going to let him sleep. And then with the Dragapult, I go for a Dragon Darts here, as Dragapult already did its job. It got the Wisp off on the Iron Hands. Anything else is just bonus. So I thought I'd just go for damage. In hindsight, I think the Light Screen would have been a little bit better here, as this damage is just so negligible that I think I would have preferred, you know, the Light Screen versus the special attackers, since they had the Iron Bundle and the Goldengo in the back. They also have the Volt Switch on Iron Hands apparently, but he does very little damage anyways. The Light Screen wouldn't have been for that. But let's see who they go into. So our opponent is going to be switching in the Goldengo on the, or bringing in the Goldengo here after the Volt Switch. And they're going to be sporing my Dragapult, so Night-Night Dragapult. But you know, like I said, Dragapult already did its job. I don't want to switch now because I don't want to potentially take a Shadow Ball on the Dragapult, even though I think they're going to be going for a Make It Rain anyways. But yeah, a Shadow Ball on the Dragapult slot would have been bad, so that's why I didn't switch Ceruledge in just yet. I was willing to just let Dragapult faint here. If he wakes up and gets off a Light Screen, that'd be very nice, but I'm not too worried about it. I will go for the Terra Steel on Screamtail though, to make sure I do survive the Make It Rain. I didn't want to switch in anyone else, and Iron Hands isn't on the field here, so I don't have to worry about being a health pack. Yeah, Dragapult continues to sleep, and Make It Rain does pretty good damage to both my Mons, but it drops Goldengo's special attack. Unfortunately, we stay asleep this turn, but the Amoonguss goes for a Clear Smog, so that is completely immune. Or I'm completely immune to that clear smog, so I don't have to worry about the damage from that. And I get a little bit of leftovers healing. So this turn, I hope I wake up with the Screamtail, as Encore into the Amoonguss would be really useful. And I'll just go for a light screen on Dragapult. If it wakes up and gets a light screen, that's fine. If it doesn't, that is also fine. At this point, I think I could also switch into the Scarlet if I wanted to, but I am a little bit scared if it tries to go for a Spore or something like that with the Amoonguss. Unfortunately, we do stay asleep here, so we won't get off that light screen. And the Gholdengo goes for a Make It Rain. So the Gholdengo is -2 here, so, you know, it's basically a light screen. It just took 2 hits. And it dropped its special attack. A good job, Dragapult. We wake up on Screamtail and get the Encore off, so that is great. Amoonguss is going to be stuck using the Clear Smog from now on. And now that they have the Grass type and the Steel type on the field here, Scarlet is looking super free in this position. I can just bring it in, threaten both of them. Gholdengo probably, or definitely wants to switch out because it's at -2 special attack. Amoonguss is locked into Clear Smog, so I could see that slot switching out as well. So I'll just go for a Thunder Wave into the Amoonguss slot. If the Amoonguss stays in, that's fine. If it doesn't, oh, I didn't really want to Thunder Wave the Gholdengo slot because it does have that Good as Gold. It just seems a little bit silly to go for that, but I am going to go for the Bitter Blade into the Gholdengo slot and threaten it. They're actually going to switch it out into the Iron Hands, so good thing I didn't Thunder Wave that slot. I get the big Bitter Blade off into it. It doesn't do too much damage, but it's enough to bring it down to half, which is great. We get the Thunder Wave off into Amoonguss, but like I said, it's still stuck using that Clear Smog. It is not a threat at this point, especially since the only Pokemon it can hit resists that tiny amount of damage. Yeah, I don't have to worry about the stat drops because I'm not running a bulk up set. I'm just running 3 attacks protect. Luckily with the burn chip damage and that Bitter Blade, I will be able to knock out the Iron Hands here, so I don't have to worry about the Steel Terra giving them an option to Drain Punch. So I can just Bitter Blade Dazzling Gleam and take it out from here. Yum yum yum. Heal back up to full with that Bitter Blade. And Dazzling Gleam. Finish off the Iron Hands. Yep, and they're still stuck using Clear Smog. I'm just gonna completely ignore that slot. This battle is now a 2v1 essentially, versus whatever's in the right slot. So their Encore ends on Amoonguss here, but the position I'm in feels very strong. They have the Gholdengo and the Amoonguss both weak to Scarlet here. I also have the Protect option if I want to maybe eat like a Make It Rain or a Shadow Ball. Yeah, they're going to switch in the Iron Bundle here. They get the Quark Drive boost. So I'm going to Thunder Wave that slot and Protect with my Scarlet. I want to see what they go for and get the paralysis off. I won't be able to outspeed it after the Thunder Wave just because it's so fast from the booster energy, but the Thunder Wave should make them second guess a lot of their attacks. They are going to switch the Amoonguss though. They don't want to get Encored again into that Clear Smog, but I kind of expected that. So yeah, they go for the Gholdengo, switch in. I'm going to protect myself here, as they go for a Water Pulse. So I'm expecting their move choices to probably be Protect, Freeze Dry, Icy Wind, Water Pulse over Hydro Pump, probably because they don't want to miss. Very understandable. Yeah, we're just going to go for the Paralysis here. That way I am less worried about the attacks. I can also go for a disable here if it tries to go for the Water Pulse. Water Pulse is not a one-hit KO on my Scarlet, which is fine. If it's able to get the hit off, I'll live and then I can heal up on the Goldango. But they switch Goldango, so this Bitter Blade should be just going into the Amoonguss here, giving me a nice chunk of health. But their Delibird is unable to move, nice and paralyzed. Yep, Bitter Blade comes out here. I can disable the Delibird here, since the Water Pulse wouldn't have KO'd anyways, and then preventing it from using Water Pulse again would mean I'll be able to live now. Or I would have been able to live even if it wasn't paralyzed. So yeah, pretty safe play here. And now Amoonguss is really low. They won't be able to switch in Goldango too freely. So I'll just go for a Dazzling Gleam for some damage. I think I could have just also encored the Delibird, but since they are faster than my Screamtail, even with that paralysis, it didn't feel too reliable. It's kind of banking on the paralysis chance. They go for the Protect on Iron Bundle, that's perfectly fine. I wasn't really too worried about doing damage into it anyways. And Bitter Blade is going to pick up the Amoonguss, so they're going to be able to have Goldango and Iron Bundle on the field. But it's just a couple turns ago, it's just the same thing, so I'm not worried. So from here, I'll just click Dazzling Gleam. The Goldango's out now. I'm not too worried about it, but the Dazzling Gleam will do a decent amount of damage into the Iron Bundle at this point, since it does have very low special defense. Bitter Blade can KO Goldango, potentially, but even if it doesn't, I do have Mons in the back to help clean up this battle. Yeah, Bitter Blade does not KO Goldango, but that's fine. They go for the Shadow Ball. And they knock me out because they don't have any special attack drops this time, but that's okay. I'm in a great position here. I don't think they'll ever be able to take out my Screamtail. And I can just keep clicking the Dazzling Gleam. So Rotom the Sleepy comes in. And I think I can just go for the electric move on the Iron Bundle slot. If they go for the Freeze Dry or get that off, that would really suck. But I do have this Screamtail that kind of just sits in front of their team. I'm not weak to Shadow Ball anymore now that I'm Terra Steel. And the water moves and ice type moves will not be doing enough to Screamtail to knock it out before I take down their Iron Bundle. So this battle is basically won from this position. But our opponent's actually going to Terra here. I thought it might be a Terra on Iron Bundle, which is why I was kind of hovering that Thunderbolt, I believe. But it's actually a Terra Ghost on their Goldango for extra damage on their Shadow Ball. Poor Iron Bundle just can't move. That's okay. Okay for me at least, not okay for them. Yeah, let's look at this Shadow Ball. Like, it does so little to Screamtail. Dazzling Gleam is just gonna pick him up, especially since the Goldango is not a Steel type anymore. Bye bye Goldango. And we're gonna be able to Thunderbolt to pick up that Iron Bundle. So GG's to our opponent. I know the paralysis on the Iron Bundle were super unlucky, but I think even if they didn't get the paralysis, I was in a pretty strong position at that point. We're against Jonathan. I like their name, sounds like my Dondozo's Donathan. But their team's gonna have Klefki, Garganacl, Gardevoir, Garchomp, whole lot of G's on this team, and Iron Hands and Meowscarada. So I like Screamtail here as well. I want to have it versus the Garganacl for sure. I also want to paralyze their Klefki, so it's a little bit less likely that they're going to be able to get their paralysis off freely, because I am scared of the Prankster Thunder Wave. Though it could also just be setting up screens, in which case Psychic Fangs would be really useful here. I also like Dragapult, as I can burn their Garchomp since I outspeed it. I can also burn Iron Hands, or I could U-turn on their Meowscarada. The Iron Valiant also looks pretty good in this position, as I can outspeed the Garchomp and do damage to that. I also have pretty good matchups versus Gardevoir. I can Hex that, Moonblast the Iron Hands, Moonblast or Aura Sphere the Meowscarada. Garganacl is a little bit of a problem for this set of Iron Valiant, because I don't have the Psychic move if it goes for a Terra Poison, though I do threaten the Rock type with Aura Sphere. For my 4th slot, I'm going to bring Scarlet. I think the Ghost type might be useful versus Gardevoir. Fire type could help me versus Meowscarada. Could also help me have some offensive pressure versus that Klefki as well. Alright, and our opponent's actually going to be leading Klefki and Garganacl. So, pretty chunky lead here. I'm definitely just going to go for that Thunder Wave into the Klefki. I can't really do anything to the Garganacl until after it moves, so I'll just let it do whatever it wants this turn. I'll go for a U-turn as well, as I want to pivot in a different Pokemon, as Dragapult really isn't doing too much here. Light Screen doesn't really reduce any of their damage, Dragon Darts doesn't do much to Garganacl, and I can't Will-O-Wisp Garganacl because of Purifying Salt. They're actually going to go straight for the Terra here, and it's going to be on the Garganacl, turning it into a Poison type. So it's most likely going to be the Jisuk Lee San Diego Garganacl set. I'm expecting Salt Cure, Protect, Wide Guard, and Recover. And Klefki's going to be going for the screens here, so luckily it's not Prankster Thunder Wave. That would have been really annoying. We're able to get the U-turn off and pivot into something else. The targeting was kind of just random in this case. It didn't really matter who I was U-turning into, since the damage is kind of negligible. I could have just switched normally as well, but I didn't really want to take a Prankster Thunder Wave on a Mon in the back. So I'm thinking between Iron Valiant and Scarlet here, but Scarlet is able to take out the Klefki, and since, you know, I have Screamtail for Garganacl, it felt like the right option here. Yeah, we get that Thunder Wave off. Should be a little bit harder for them to get moves off now. Maybe they'll get paralyzed just like that Delibird from that last game. Their Garganacl goes for the Salt Cure on my Screamtail, but now I can disable it as long as it's not going for Protect. If it does go for Protect, I can just go for Encore. But I think it's a little unlikely that it goes for Protect here, since I'm not really throwing too much damage into it. And I think it's more likely that they'll go for a Salt Cure onto my Scarlet and try to get the damage stacking up. So yeah, disable into Garganacl. That way its only attacking move is locked up, and it's only got 3 pretty useless status moves. I can just go for the Bitter Blade into the Klefki here. Unfortunately, they do have those screens, so my damage will be reduced, but that's okay. I'll just take it a little bit slow here. The paralysis doesn't stop the Reflect though, so my Bitter Blade will not KO the Klefki. But we do get that disable off on the Garganacl, and you can just see the power of the Screamtail set here. Like, look at it, it just can't move. He's stuck here. He might as well be a rock. Be a pebble. He's doing the same thing. Yeah, we recover a little bit with leftovers, but we're going to be taking a little bit more from the Salt Cure. That's fine, because the Garganacl basically is forced to switch out at this point. That thing is just taking up a slot on the field. And the Klefki, I can just get rid of it now, so he won't be able to get any more Prankster moves off. And this turn, I'm going to be switching out the Screamtail. Unfortunately, since I didn't U-turn into the Klefki on the first turn, my Shadow Sneak is not going to do enough damage to knock it out at this range. So if I had to play differently, I would have U-turned the LAKEY that first turn. I will just go for the Bitter Blade though, it should pick up the kill, and by swapping out the Screamtail I'll be able to bring in the Dragapult pretty safely since I am expecting the Garganacl to also swap out. Garg switches out and it's into Iron Hands, just who I wanted to see. Don't worry, I got something for you, my boy. Alright, they go for the Rain Dance though, which is really unfortunate as my fire moves will be doing half damage now. But I do get this Bitter Blade off to get the KO on LAKEY. Our opponent is going to be sending in the Garganacl here. And now it's no longer disabled, so it can go for that Sulk here. I'm going to be going for the Will-O-Wisp onto the Iron Hands, and to pressure the Garganacl, I'll be switching in the Screamtail back in. I was considering a Protect to potentially stall out rain turns, but I didn't want to let the Garganacl get too many free turns off just yet, so I wanted to bring in the Screamtail to kind of immediately put the pressure on a little bit. The Screamtail switch in also lets me take a hit if there's an attack aimed in the Scarlet slot. The Screamtail is going to be able to absorb it quite nicely. So go Screamtail, go. We do land that Will-O-Wisp, which is really nice. It would have sucked a little bit if I missed. But then that means the Iron Hands probably would have swapped out the next turn. They do land a Stomping Tantrum into my Screamtail, but I eat that quite handily, especially because it's burned now. But they do land a critical hit Sulk Cure onto my Screamtail. I could disable the Garganacl from this position, but I am afraid of a Garganacl switch or a Protect. Both of those would force me to take Sulk Cure damage, which I don't really want to do. Especially since the Screamtail is my kind of only answer to the Garganacl in the endgame. So this turn, I'll just be going for a Dragon Darts on my Dragapult slot. It seems pretty free for damage, even though it's not going to be doing too much versus these two giant walls. And on the Screamtail slot, I'm going to swap out so I don't take too much Sulk Cure damage. I'll bring Screamtail back in later after I finish off the Garganacl's partners. You can see me really thinking about this disable play though, but yeah, I really don't want to risk the endgame if they go for a switch here. Because if they take out Screamtail, I don't really have anyone to attack the Poison Terra Garganacl. So yeah, come back Screamtail. And I'm going to be sending in Scarlet here. They're actually going to go for a switch as well on the Iron Hands, send in their last Pokemon, who is Gardevoir. Gardevoir could be a lot of things. It could have Imprison, Trick Room, maybe it's like a fast Choice Scarf Pokemon with like Dazzling Gleam. But yeah, Dragon Darts is just going to be both redirected into the Garganacl, and Dragapult will take a Sulk here. So from here, I could Light Screen, I could attack as well, but I definitely want to get attacks off into the Gardevoir, because I want to just leave the Garganacl for the 1v1 or something v1 in the endgame. As long as I have my Screamtail alive, this Garganacl is toast. So I can just go for Light Screen Protect here. I'm expecting maybe a Sulk here into the Scarlet slot, and Dragapult really isn't too useful from this position. It already got the burn off, very nice, and I'm going to be able to get this Light Screen off as well, in case Gardevoir ever tries to attack me. Yeah, I'm a little bit confused as to why they're just continuously switching their partner slot, but I don't mind because I'm just able to get my setup done a little bit, and they're going to be taking Burn Chip. We do take a little more damage from Sulk here, but it's not too important. I don't really care about the Pokesash at this point, and Dragapult isn't going to be too useful. Unfortunately, it is still raining, so I'm going to go for a Terra Grass just because it'll give me an option to do some damage versus the Iron Hands, since the Bitter Blade is only doing about 45 base damage from here. The Terra Grass also lets me take Salt Cures from the Garganacl a little better since I won't have that weakness to rock. I was also looking at the other Pokemon on my team, and I just didn't think that the Terra on them would be as useful. Alright, Dragapult gets a U-turn on the Iron Hands. I was low-key expecting them to switch into Gardevoir here, but it's okay. We can deal with the hands. I'm going to send in Iron Valiant. This way I can threaten their partner slot for the Garganacl and just focus all my attacks into that slot and then leave Garganacl for the endgame versus that Screamtail. And that should just net me the win. We do get that Quark Drive speed here, but it is pretty useless since both these opponents are quite slow. Terra Blast does pretty little damage to the Iron Hands, but we take even less from the Thunder Punch. But they Salt Cure into the Ceruledge as I expected. Luckily, since we're not Fire type anymore, it doesn't do as much damage. And luckily the rain stops as well, so we're going to be able to start Bitter Blading again and restoring our HP. Iron Hands takes a little bit from Burn, we take some from Salt Cure. But we're just going to be able to go for a Moonblast into the Iron Hands slot here. We can Bitter Blade that slot too, if it doesn't go down, like if it has like some, like 2 Assault Vests or something like that. Just for a little insurance. So the Bitter Blade gets redirected into the Garganacl. It does a little bit of damage, but I'm not too worried about the damage here. It's nice to just get some healing. I'm going to be double targeting the Gardevoir slot to make sure I get that KO. The Garganacl goes for a Salt Cure into my Ceruledge. Kind of surprised it didn't go for the Salt Cure into the Iron Valiant. Maybe they were expecting a switch here. But we take a little bit of Salt Cure chip. Gardevoir comes back in. I am a little bit scared if it's Scarf, because I don't want my Ceruledge to go down here. So I'll just be going for a Moonblast and Shadow Sneak into that slot to ensure the KO, unless it has Protect for some reason. And as long as the Gardevoir goes down here, the endgame is basically secured. I can just let any of my Pokemon on the field faint, bring in the Screamtail safely, and since I outspeed the Garganacl, I can either disable it or encore it depending on what move it used last, and it's basically a guaranteed win. Except both attacks are able to take out the Gardevoir, so the game is secured. However, our opponent will not let me go. They're actually going to hold me hostage here until the game times out, while I am able to switch in my Screamtail pretty safely and secure the game. So I'm going to skip ahead to the end of the battle. Our opponent this time has Iron Bundle, Meowscarada, Armarouge, Iron Hands, Flutter Mane, and Indeedee Female. This team is a little bit scary. My initial thoughts is it might be Trick Room, especially with the Indeedee Female and the Flutter Mane. But they do have fast options as well with the Meowscarada and the Armarouge. Who knows, maybe it could be a weak armor policy set with like Flip Turn, Iron Bundle. But they also do have that slow Iron Hands, so I was thinking maybe it is just a Trick Room team. I wanted to bring Screamtail and Dragapult here to potentially burn the Iron Hands. I can set up screens if I need to versus the Iron Bundle and Flutter Mane. I can also paralyze those leads as well since they are really fast. I wanted to bring Scizor here as the Terra Water is pretty good versus the Armarouge. I can also Bullet Punch that Flutter Mane. Pretty strong here. The Vest is pretty nice versus their special attackers. For the 4th slot here, I'm going to bring Iron Valiant. It seems pretty obvious because I do have moves that can hit super effectively against like 5 of their Pokemon, and the last one is just Indeedee, who isn't really threatening too much damage against my team. And our opponent is going to be leading the Flutter Mane and the Iron Bundle. Very, very scary mons right off the bat. Unfortunately, they do have that Cork Drive, so I won't be outspeeding that guy. So if they go for the Icy Wind, Dazzling Gleam, I won't be able to have a chance of surviving on Dragapult, though I would be able to get the light screen off before the Flutter Mane attacks. But the Icy Wind and Dazzling Gleam isn't really threatening the Scream Tail, so I'm just going to be switching into Scizor here. The Assault Vest is going to be able to let me eat these hits very, very well. Yeah, Icy Wind comes out, very little damage. The speed drops are unfortunate on the Scream Tail at least, as after the Thunder Waves it'll be less likely that I'll outspeed something. The speed drops really don't matter on a Pokemon like Scizor since it's already very, very slow. Luckily I do get the Thunder Wave off on the Iron Bundle here. And I do get a little bit of leftovers healing. So at this point, some of the Flutter Manes do carry Mystical Fire for Scizor, so I could see that coming out here. So I'm going to be Terra Water on Scizor actually. That way I can just eat the Mystical Fire hit. If it does go for something else, it's not threatening Scizor at all. And then I can just go for a close combat into the Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle is a little bit threatening here if I do Terra Water, because he can go for a Freeze Dry, which would really suck. So I want to get rid of that first, so I don't have to deal with it the next turn. Yeah, Terra Water comes out. I got the Squirt Hat. And Mystical Fire does go into Scizor, so good thing we had that Terra Water. Our special attack goes down, but that really doesn't matter. And their Flutter Mane loses a little bit of HP. Looks like it's a Life Orb. But the little bit of HP is very good. That means it'll definitely be dying to this Bullet Punch next turn. I'm just going to be spreading Thunder Waves though. I don't really feel the need to be going for anything else. And Thunder Waves will definitely make them at least second guess any attack they go for, like any protects. Yeah, we get that nice close combat off. Unfortunately, our defenses do go down one stage each, so we are weak to any of the partner for Flutter Mane next turn. Yeah, they're going to be sending in the Meowscarada here. So Meowscarada is probably looking to go for a Flower Trick into my Scizor. That's fine. I'll probably be aiming a Bullet Punch towards their teammate here, the Flutter Mane. If it switched out, it wouldn't be too big of a deal. It's already paralyzed, so the speed is only going to be, I believe, 102. Very, very slow. So it wouldn't be too threatening when it comes back in. I can just hit it with basically anything physical and it should explode. The Scream Tail, I could have just Dazzling Gleamed here if I really wanted to break a Sash or something like that, but I didn't feel the need to do it quite yet. And I thought it'd be nice to be able to slow down the Meowscarada for whoever I'm sending in next. Flower Trick comes out here. Does pick up the KO on my Scizor. RIP Scizor. Oh man, they got a very, very lucky crit. Extremely lucky. Well yeah, our Thunder Wave goes off. So we've paralyzed 3 out of their 4 mons this game already. Like, we're just spamming the Thunder Wave. Like, it's just such an easy move to click, which is why I don't really like running Protect, or I don't want to run Protect on this Scream Tail. Like, I might as well just click Thunder Wave. Their Pokemon usually won't be hitting me too hard, and I can really threaten them with this. So I don't know who their last mon is. I don't know if I want to commit the Iron Valiant here just yet, but I feel like the Dragapult is pretty safe here. I can U-turn into that Meowscarada. Looks like they're going to be bringing in the Indeedee, which is perfect for me. I'm expecting to be a Follow Me and an attack. Probably a knockoff into the Dragapult. So I'm about to pull out something spicy right here. So you see this U-turn? I don't want to I don't want to get brought down to Sash. Indeedee indeed goes for Follow Me. I'm going to U-turn into that Indeedee slot, deal plenty of damage. And I'm going to bring in Iron Valiante. This way, I'm able to proc this booster energy, I lose my item, and I have a fairy and fighting type, so I quad resist this knockoff that's going to be most likely aimed at the Dragapult slot. If it's able to move this turn, of course. It does, and look at that. 14 damage. Dazzling Gleam is able to do a pretty good chunk to Meowscarada. I do get a crit on Indeedee, but it's still very little damage. And I get a little bit of healing with the leftovers. This turn I was a little bit scared of a potential Follow Me into a Flower Trick on my Iron Valiant, even though I do have a, like, Iron Valiant's base defense is pretty good. It probably would be able to live the hit. I thought it would be a little bit safer to just go for a Thunder Wave here on the Indeedee. I wasn't sure if it'd knock it out just because I'm used to Indeedees being pretty chunky and they usually hold like a Psychic Seed, so I'm used to their special defense being a lot higher, but I forgot that this one didn't have a Psychic Seed, so I feel like Moonblast would have just knocked it out. And I would have been safe to just go for the attack here. Either way, it didn't follow me anyway, so I would have been fine just attacking to Meowscarada. Thunder Wave goes out into Indeedee, and that should just seal up the game from here. So yeah, Screamtail was able to paralyze all 4 of the opponent's Pokemon this match, and it only took, what is that, like 63 damage? That's so little. And just got so much value out of this Pokemon. I really love it. I'm excited to use it more in the future. And yeah, look at that, the paralysis just was so disruptive. You're not guaranteed any moves when you have that paralysis. So we can just Moonblast and Dazzling Gleam until our opponents all faint. The opponent's going to cancel the battle here. GG's to our opponent. Unfortunately, they cannot handle the Thunder Wave monster that is Screamtail. So we do hit Master Ball in this episode with the Screamtail team. If you made it this far in the episode, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch a video that I made. We already dropped 2 points. But yeah, stay tuned for the next episode, and until then, bye bye.